President Trump strongly recommends women who are pregnant to not take Tylenol.
He said yesterday that the use of acetaminophen during pregnancy, quote, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. That was a quote. This is despite decades of evidence that it is safe. Pregnant women should always discuss any decisions with their own doctors before anything else. But joining us now is Areva Martin, a civil rights attorney and an autism advocate. You know, I know you and I have done so much work, and I know that families with autistic kids, they want answers.
Yes.
What was your initial reaction to this announcement?
I was very concerned about the announcement, particularly given, as you said at the top of the segment, the scientific evidence that has for decades, have not been able to make a conclusive finding of any causation between Tylenol and autism. Look, let me just be really clear. The autism community was very excited to see the Trump administration was interested in autism. And we thought he was going to dedicate more dollars, more research dollars to credible scientific studies that are already taking place. But yet what we're getting is what many believe to be junk science. We're getting these bold statements, and these statements that suggest that a very simple pain reliever that many mothers have taken for years is now somehow associated with autism, although there is no credible scientific evidence to support that. So this creates more fear in the autism community. It places blame on mothers, which we have fought for decades to debunk the theory that mothers were somehow cold or frigid, or that we did things during our pregnancy that created, autism. Autism, look, is a very complex neurological condition. And scientists will tell you there is no one single answer to what causes it. That is a very complex, multifaceted condition, and that it needs to be treated with that lens and that context needs to be present at all times.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of that, people saying, moms, do not blame yourself,
yes.
And also, we know that when you have a fever and you're pregnant, that can also increase miscarriage risk in the first trimester. So I've also seen pediatricians and OBGYNs saying, hold up here, we don't want women to then have these high fevers and not treat them. But let's talk about what we do know, what can influence the risk of autism.
Well, what we know is sometimes the biggest causation of autism, from what the scientists say, and scientists right here at the University of California have been doing research on autism for decades. It's genetics. It is a genetic condition, sometimes influenced by environment, can have an impact. But this notion that somehow what mothers do, if they take a pain reliever, if they take something to reduce fever that could have other negative consequences, is the cause. We fought against this in the 20th century when women were blamed for autism. So when you have a Health and Human Services director, when you have a president making these statements that are not backed by credible science, it really creates fear in the community, and it's going to make mothers think twice about taking a pain reliever that may be necessary to reduce fever or to reduce pain.
I think the concern I start having here is that we do have so many doctors pushing back on this today. You turn on any channel, you read any article, numerous doctors over and over saying this has not been the science for years and years. We're now getting all of this confusion.
Yes.
It's this group says this group says that, this happened. I mean, just in the work that you do in terms of your advocacy and the center that you provide, how confusing is it for people to navigate right now?
Oh, it's very confusing, Jamie. I got a ton of emails and direct messages saying, oh my God, did I cause my child to have autism because I took Tylenol? Or is there some big lawsuit about to happen against Tylenol? Should there be a class action? Because parents don't know. And so one of the things we want in the autism community is we want good science, we want consistency, we want evidence-based proclamations about autism, and we want money. We want resources to flow into credible scientific work that's being done. We want resources for families that need a diagnosis, that need interventions, that need treatment. Because one thing we do know is that early diagnosis and early intervention can make an incredible difference in the lives of an individual with autism. And what we're seeing is the opposite. We're seeing funding being cut for that kind of research, and funding being cut for those resources that are needed day to day to help a child or an adult live with autism.
I do want to go back to something you said. Do you think there will be lawsuits against Tylenol, class action suits?
Well, if you've been told that there's now somehow some evidence that Tylenol is the cause of your child's autism, why wouldn't there be? Why wouldn't Tylenol and the makers of Tylenol be held responsible? So I'm not sure if the Trump administration had that that in mind when they made that statement yesterday. But of course, lawyers are going to be thinking and families are going to be thinking.
That's the other hat you wear. So
that's the other one that I
you.
wear. Absolutely. If there is some manufacturer of a medication that has caused your kids autism that you weren't warned about, of course there are going to be lawsuits.
All right, Areva, thank you so much. And we also want to say a lot of people love people within the autism community. And I've seen a lot of posts, too, of people saying, like, we are not broken. We don't need to be fixed.
Absolutely.
We just need the help that everybody needs when they're facing, you know, a diagnosis.
Absolutely.
So,
Areva,
thanks so much for joining us.
Resources.
Yeah.